Earth, the planet we call our home. From deserts to snowy mountains, as surely as the seasons change, through the passage of time, every inch of our world is, as it has always been, teeming with life, with creatures large and small. Join us in celebrating the mighty wilderness in Wild About. Somewhere in Sub-Saharan Africa, the early morning sun rises over the savanna. It is just before the yearly migration, and something other than rain-ripened grass await the oncoming hordes of wildebeest and zebras. A predator. A man-eater. A beast of legend. An undisputed king. In the African country of Tanzania, the region of the Great Serengeti is one of the world's largest and most diverse ecosystems. It's home to hundreds of species of exotic animals of all walks of life. Spread out over an area the size of Belgium, it spans all manners of terrain. From forests and swamps, hills and mountains, wide open grasslands, and the great savanna. Considered one of the 7 wonders of Africa, it also holds the world's largest population of the great African lion, Panthera leo. Closely related to the tiger, jaguar, and the leopard. The lion is typically categorized into 8 subspecies. Spanning all of Africa, south of the Sahara, and India, the lion is the 2nd largest living cat. They have dominated their habitats for thousands of years as the apex predator. Stemming from a common ancestor of all cats 10 million years ago, the lion first evolved 700,000 years ago. Emerging from southern Africa before migrating north, dividing into subspecies we know today. Since its inception, the lion has evolved to be perfectly suited for its environment. Tan fur as camouflage against the browns and yellow hues of the sandy rocks and tall grass. Muscular, lean build for quick dashes and ferocious attacks. A perfect predator. Born to rule. One of the most mythic and instantly recognizable animals on Earth. The lion has always been seen as a symbol for royalty, power, respect for the wilderness. A symbol for Africa. A symbol for the wild and untamed. A symbol for the jungle itself. Though often called the king of the jungle, the lion still rarely ventures out into the dense tropical forests. Known to be almost twice the size of a grown man, the male African lion can weigh as much as 1/4 of a ton. It is outmatched only by the tiger among the gray cats. Unlike other cats, lions live and hunt in packs, or prides, centered around a group of closely related female lionesses, with only 1 or 2 resident males. The pride area is often a marked territory focused around a nest or resting ground inhabited by the females. With its fringes guarded vigilantly by the male. Hunting and acquiring food in the pride is typically handled by the females, lighter, faster, and more agile, while the male watches over the cubs. Any prey brought down small enough will be carried back to the pride area. Anything bigger than that is eaten on the spot. Often the prey is consumed over several hours under the cover of darkness. Sprinters more than long-distance runners, the lioness hunt in groups, slowly stalking their prey from multiple vantage points. Head held low. Shoulders hunched. Still. Before they strike. And before the prey knows it's hit them, a single bite to the neck or face, the prey dies from asphyxiation. Though common thought to be primarily ferocious hunters, targeting wildebeest, zebras, and warthogs, over half of the food acquired is through expert scavenging. Few other animals would be foolish enough to contest the lioness's claim to newly fallen prey. Primarily nocturnal, the lion sleeps during most of the day, only to emerge shortly before sunset, ready in search of food. The lion is also the only species of cat where males and females are distinctly different in appearance, with the mature male's distinctive mane readily apparent. The color, texture, and length of the mane can be indicative of a lion's health, as well as the breed. The longer and darker it is, the healthier the animal. The mane is commonly used for intimidation, making it appear larger than it is in a confrontation. This plays a role in defending the pride from solitary nomadic males seeking to join the pride, avoiding direct conflict. If challenged, a resident male may defend his place in the pride to the death, as he is also the father of all existing cubs. If a new male takes the resident male's place, they will often kill the existing cubs to later replace with those of their own line. The lion's mating ritual occurs several times a year. Once the lionesses are in heat, lasting several days with regular intervals. Because the mating act is painful for the female, the male must retain control by force. The male approaches the female from behind, biting her neck to keep her in place. During this period, a lioness may mate with a resident male up to 40 times a day, both parties often foregoing eating. Following consummation, the female writhes and rolls around to increase the chance of conception. Whereas the male steers clear, avoiding postcoital aggression from the female. Exactly 110 days later, a litter of 1 to 4 cubs is born in the lioness's den. Initially cared for by their mother alone, the cubs are defenseless and highly vulnerable. The cubs are kept in seclusion from the rest of the pride until they are a month or 2 of age. Born blind and unable to move, the cubs quickly gain the ability not only to crawl but to run, much to the dismay of their mother, who constantly has to relocate their den to avoid marking the area with the scent of the cubs. Lion cubs are often co-parented by other lionesses, as their reproductive cycles often synchronize to allow shared breastfeeding and protection of their young. At 2 to 3 years of age, the lions are already considered sexually mature. With many young lions already attempting to mate within their pride. females are then integrated into the pride. Whereas the males are commonly pushed out by their father to find a new pride. Almost every male lion goes through this phase and are known as nomads, wandering the wilderness, trying to find a pride with a male weak enough to challenge. Life in the Serengeti is very perilous. As many as 80% of all cubs die before reaching adulthood from either starvation or predation. Jackals, hyenas, leopards, martial eagles, and snakes are among a young lion cub's many foes. The mortality rate of even adult lions is also notably high due to territorial conflicts with other prides as well as human intervention and hunting. Once spread out across Europe, North Africa, and Asia Minor, the lion today has been reduced to a small population south of the Sahara of 16,000 individuals, and an endangered population of only 400 specimens in India. Today, with less and less of the African wilderness capable of sustaining the surrounding wildlife, combined with the intense rivalry from the prosperous hyenas, illnesses stemming from a limited population plagued by inbreeding, and extensive poaching. Lions are now considered a vulnerable species, with several subspecies considered endangered and on the verge of extinction. Starting already in ancient Egypt, lions were hunted for sport and kept in cages and enslaved as exotic status symbols. With the Romans going so far as to engage lions in gladiator games, commonly sacrificing Christian martyrs to be eaten alive by lions in the arena. Their natural habitat has been drastically reduced following the colonization and increased urbanization of Africa starting in the 19th century. Widespread stories of their ferociousness as man-eaters, lions were extensively hunted and killed to protect the emerging slave and ivory trade. With a notable instance along the Tsavo River in Kenya in 1898. Where two rare and unusually large and maneless male lions attacked and killed 3 dozen railroad workers. They were nicknamed the Ghost and the Darkness by the workers who feared them with great superstition, and the story seeped into African legend. A story that contributed greatly to the Western fears of the savage lion from the Dark Continent. A large portion of the lion population worldwide are now confined to zoos and wildlife parks. Many growing obese and increasingly domesticated. no longer able to survive in the wild, and frequently made part of public entertainment such as lion taming and circus shows.
I'm not afraid of nothing. How do you do? I'm a pretty brave kid. I don't care about kittens. I don't care how big the kittens are. Hey, Buzz, get those nails filed. They hurt. Serves you right. See that big guy's face?
And though it is uncommon for lions to hunt humans, as a result of prey depletion and human settlements expanding into bush country, some lions have turned to people as a source of food. Estimates range up to 70 people per year in Tanzania alone are killed and eaten by wild lions, with hundreds of local villagers and tourists attacked and killed across the continent. Because of this, lion hunting is again on the rise with the rapidly expanding online black market for teeth, hides, and other trophies. The king of the jungle is on the brink of being a thing of the past. But for now, it remains one of the last wild predators on Earth. Earth, the planet we call our home. From deserts to snowy mountains, as surely as the seasons change, through the passage of time, every inch of our world is, as it has always been, teeming with life, with creatures large and small. Join us in celebrating the mighty wilderness in Wild About. As humans, we are easily complacent with our role as the dominant species on Earth. We go about our daily lives, surrounded by artifice of our own making, wherever we go. In our cities, in our work, in our homes. Our very way of life no longer defined by nature, but by ourselves, in the limits of our imagination. Yet far from our nascent transcendence, buried in the dark depths of the tropical jungle, high among the treetops and misty mountains, our long-forgotten origins remain, left as they always were, our shadows, our family, our brethren. Among the broad mammalian order of primates and the infraorder of simians, there's the superfamily of Hominoidae, also known as the branch of apes. They are the tailless monkeys, the fast learners and social primates, commonly divided into two families, Hylobatidae, or lesser apes, including all forms of gibbon, and hominidae, the great apes, including orangutans, gorillas, bonobos, chimpanzees, and humans. Though the word ape is commonly used interchangeably with monkey, in biology the distinction is clear, with the term ape reserved for the highly evolved group of primates who exhibit no tail, have exceptionally mobile shoulder joints for vertical hanging and swinging, a shorter spine, broader, flatter chest, usually larger frame, a menstrual cycle as opposed to an estrous cycle, and notably high intellect, particularly among the great apes. All apes are mainly herbivores or frugivores, feeding off leaves and fruits. Apes first evolved from the Old World monkeys, diverging around 30 to 35 million years ago, with the division of great and lesser apes occurring 10 to 15 million years later. The lesser apes, the gibbons, are distinguished by having low sexual dimorphism, virtually no nest building, being smaller than the great apes, with the smallest bonobo being more than twice the size of the largest gibbon, the siamang, with certain anatomical details more closely similar to monkeys. They are spread out across Indonesia, Malaysia, Laos, Cambodia, Thailand, Vietnam, southern China, and northeast India. Gibbons are nevertheless intelligent and highly social animals, and are expert brachiators, often traveling at great speed, swinging themselves from branch to branch, rarely ever touching the ground, thanks to a unique ball and socket shoulder joint and hooked hands. The easiest way of distinguishing the different species being through their distinctive song. Complex series of hoots and calls, songs that can be heard for miles around, intended to ward off other gibbons from their highly protected territory. They are usually grouped as pair-bonded families. Unlike the great apes, they are typically monogamous, with many gibbon families gathering at the edges of their territory every morning, making the great call to signify the boundaries of their area, often as male-female duets to signify their status as a pair. With juveniles pushed out of the group once they reach sexual maturity around 10 years of age. Gibbons typically reproduce once every 2 to 3 years, with their young nursing until a year and a half of age, the males sharing the burden of carrying their young. Most of a gibbon's daily life consists of feeding and resting. With many exhibiting extensive socializing, using gestures, facial expressions, and grooming to develop close social bonds. At night, they sleep among the trees, high above their natural predators of tigers and sun bears. Orangutans first formed their own branch 14 million years ago, with 2 surviving species, the Bornean orangutan and the Sumatran orangutan. The small remaining population existing only on the islands of Borneo and Sumatra, sharing their habitat with the gibbons. Orangutans are also known to be exceptionally intelligent tool users, using sticks, stones, and sharpened cutting tools to open fruits and extract honey and insects. With fully articulated hands and feet, orangutans walk on their fists rather than their knuckles, unlike the other great apes. Found in mainly dipterocarp forests. Spending most of their time in the trees, orangutans live a more solitary lifestyle than other apes, with adults commonly living completely alone, either transient or with clearly defined ranges, which they defend, sometimes with force, from other orangutans. Dominant adult males are easily distinguished by their thick cheek pads, and heavy throat pouches capable of making loud, long calls to attract females and ward off rivals. With the male significantly larger than the female, often weighing more than twice as much. The orangutans feed for several hours in the morning, their main source of food being ficus fruits, followed by rest, to prepare them for traveling in the afternoon. At night, they construct nests high above the ground, pulling together tree branches and tying them together at a point, which is then covered in leafy branches to form a mattress. Orangutans reach sexual maturity around 15 years of age. Though some males stall in developing the cheeks, throat pouches, and long fur, these mature yet not dominant males are known as unflanged, often resorting to rape rather than courtship in order to successfully mate. As with humans and other great apes, orangutan pregnancies last 8 to 9 months, and are typically of a single young, but have 8-year intervals between births, the longest of any ape, with the male taking no part in raising their young. The mother often assisted only by their older offspring, with the orangutan spending most of the first years of its life in constant physical contact with its mother, only able to move fully on their own after weaning at 4 years of age. With the typical lifespan of an orangutan being just over 30 years. From the same common ancestor, gorillas evolved 7 million years ago. They are found in a few select areas in Central Africa, in an area divided by the Congo River into east and west, dividing into the 2 species we know today, the western gorilla and the eastern gorilla. Western gorillas being lighter in color, either brown or gray, eastern gorillas being somewhat larger, with a broader chest and longer face in either black or blue fur, each divided into subspecies of lowland and mountainous gorilla, with the lowland gorillas being more slender and agile than the bulkier mountain gorillas. Gorillas are the largest apes, with the largest specimen being nearly 6 feet in height, weighing up to 600 pounds. As such, they are the only ape that remains continuously grounded as opposed to climbing trees, walking on all fours in a distinctive knuckle-led stride. Their diet varies considerably depending on their lifestyle, with mountain gorillas feeding mainly on foliage such as leaves and stems, plentiful in the mountain ranges, while lowland gorillas vary their diet seasonally and include more fruits, prompting a more transient existence, traveling farther each day to compensate for reduced availability of food. Highly social, gorillas live in groups known as troops, commonly consisting of several females, their young, and a single mature male, also known as a silverback, who at more than 12 years of age has developed a silvery patch on his back to signify his maturity and dominance, being considerably larger than juvenile males or even adult females. The silverback is at the heart of the troop, making all the decisions and navigation for the group, as well as mediating conflicts and defending the troop from predators and threats, with occasional younger males or blackbacks forming an additional defense. Much of the social bonding between gorillas occurs with grooming. Gorillas spend much of their day eating and resting. Considered highly intelligent, gorillas sometimes use tools, even weapons, and have been shown to have rich emotional lives, with the ability to laugh and grieve, and to express concern about past and future events. Some gorillas in captivity have even been taught to use sign language. Females mature around 10 to 12 years, males later at 11 to 13. A gorilla pregnancy lasts 8.5 months, with 4-year intervals. After birth, the young remain attached to the female for the first 5 months, nursing until 3 or 4 years of age. Though not directly involved in raising the young, the silverback is often highly protective of his children. Gorilla lifespans range from 35 to 40 years, with some reaching up to 50 years of age, developing gray hairs just like humans. Chimpanzees diverged, last of the great apes, between 4 to 6 million years ago, from the same line that eventually evolved into humans, both terrestrial and arboreal. Chimpanzees can be found in selected areas of Central and Western Africa, divided into two species emerging 2 million years ago, with the formation of the Congo River as a demarcation line. The common chimpanzee, slightly larger with a more robust build, changing face color and dark lips, more prevalent on the west side of the river. And the bonobo, more slender, dark-faced, and with bright pink lips and longer limbs. The two species differ also in behavior and psychology, with the common chimpanzee more aggressive and omnivorous, forming temporary male-centric hunting troops, with several beta males led by a dominant alpha, as the males are considerably larger than the females. The troops are commonly part of a larger, permanent community of as many as 150 individuals, known as the parent group, where individuals frequently shift allegiance and social circle as a response to social interactions and situations, merging as a whole overnight and diverging into smaller troops during the day. With many groups having violent clashes with each other, both within the community as well as outside. The males are primarily responsible for hunting and protecting the community, often remaining with the same community their entire lives, while females emigrate at adolescence, ensuring genetic diversity and preventing inbreeding. The troops reflect their different roles, with groups coming together for different reasons. All male groups often forming for hunting, while all female groups can be found as nursing groups, taking care of the young. With mixed groups forming for social grooming. As a result, chimpanzee societies are highly complex and based on subtle personal relationships between individuals, making the alpha males even more aggressive, not knowing if the constant changing of groups mean an attempted coup is in progress, thus necessitating constant assertions of dominance to prevent coalitions from forming, with low-ranking males exploiting and even increasing political instability in the group by frequently switching sides, in order to gain further access to the females while the alpha is engaged in the conflict. Highly territorial, chimps have been known to kill other chimps outside of their community, or even within, given a strong enough conflict or rivalry. Though chimpanzees can easily survive on fruits and foliage alone, chimps occasionally hunt for birds, insects, warthogs, antelopes, and even other monkeys, such as the western red colobus, yellow baboons, and red-tailed monkeys. Bonobos differ in that they are almost exclusively frugivorous, only rarely attacking other monkeys due to hunger, and instead are matriarchal in their community structure, with mother-son bonds particularly strong, males deriving their status from their mother alone, as male bonobos are normally almost the same size as the females, and no hunting parties are required, less aggressive. Bonobos are known for being extraordinarily peaceful, unlike the common chimpanzees, with extensive social mingling as opposed to rivalry between groups and communities. And they're known to have a higher capacity for empathy, with rich emotional lives closer to that of humans. Bonobos also use sexuality as conflict management, unlike any other ape, often using intercourse to form social bonds, resolve issues, and offer reconciliation. The reproduction rates are no higher than that of the common chimpanzee. Mating among chimps and bonobos can occur nearly any time of the year, with both males and females attempting to mate with as many partners as possible. though occasionally infanticide is practiced by the dominant male against unrelated young. As with most apes, the mother is the primary caregiver of their young, with the newborn clinging to their mother's body, unable to support their own weight, only able to move independently at 2 years of age, with weaning occurring only at 4 to 6 years. Highly intelligent, chimps can be taught to understand human speech and numbers. Chimps are highly capable of creating rudimentary tools. And even use leaves as utensils for drinking water. With both chimps and bonobos able to feel intense compassion or grief, engaging in altruism, such as adopting orphaned young. As with the taxonomy of apes, which has been the subject of intense debate for centuries, the term ape itself had a long history of being redefined, with common perception of what constitutes an ape being confused to this day. A staple of zoos around the world, apes have learned to function well in captivity, with extended lives unthreatened by predators, with chimpanzees living over 60 years in captivity. Throughout history, apes have had frequent relations with man. Many are revered as gods, or respected as kinsmen. Later on in the West, kept in circuses and freak shows, labeled as wild men of the jungle. And since Charles Darwin's initial publications of the relationship between great apes and humans, public awareness has been continuously directed at the study of them. With many popular depictions exaggerating their human traits and intellect. And frequent domestication of wild great apes portrayed in the media. Despite their endangered nature and large size. With individual apes acquiring fame in captivity. Several chimpanzees and gorillas have also been known as renowned painters, such as Peter, a 4-year-old chimp that was involved in a hoax in 1964, where a Swedish journalist exhibited his paintings as the works of an unknown French painter, earning significant critical acclaim as an avant-garde artist. While Congo, a chimpanzee who, in the 1950s, showed a clear sense of composition and balance, developing a highly distinct style that has been called abstract impressionism, amassing a collected work of over 400 paintings and drawings, with Pablo Picasso being a fan. This has led to many attempting to keep apes as private pets. Not realizing the necessity for them to have larger environments with high foraging demands, as well as high levels of aggression and immense strength far greater than that of humans, resulting in many apes being put down or transferred. Their physical and anatomical similarity to humans has also been found as beneficial to pharmaceutical trials, with particularly chimpanzees used for animal testing, including invasive procedures such as surgery and biopsy, as well as injections of infectious agents and drug testing, with many, due to their rarity, used for numerous tests rather than being killed or discarded after single procedures. Some chimpanzees used for over 40 years of testing and experimentation. despite moral outrage from animal rights groups. All great apes are highly endangered, partly due to hunting and illegal pet trade, but mainly due to shrinking habitats. With individuals numbering in the thousands for most. Even mere hundreds for mountain gorillas. With apes of all kinds being pushed to the brink of extinction. Until then, our last remaining family is out there, in the treetops and jungles, a reminder of our past and our responsibilities for the future. Earth, the planet we call our home. From deserts to snowy mountains, as surely as the seasons change, through the passage of time, every inch of our world is, as it has always been, teeming with life, with creatures large and small. Join us in celebrating the mighty wilderness in Wild About. Tall grass, windswept desert, tropical jungle, rolling hills, stormy seas, anywhere warm, anywhere safe, anywhere you won't think to look. Something is hiding, hunting, equally feared and hated as it is worshipped and adored. There exists nothing like it. A predator, a cold-blooded hunter, an icon. One of the most prolific carnivores on the planet, snakes exist on every continent except Antarctica. On every major landmass, across the Pacific and Indian Ocean, and in enormous numbers, with more than 20 families and 3,400 species. Snakes come in sizes as small as the thread snake at a decimeter long, to the reticulated python at 5 times the length of a grown man. Their prey range from insects and rodents to buffalo and alligators, even other snakes. They evolved from lizards during the mid-Cretaceous period, more than 100 million years ago. Blooming after the death of the dinosaurs, as the dominant reptile species. Strictly carnivorous. Snakes can be venomous, or constricting, or just eat their prey alive. With venomous snakes relying on a single sustained bite to deliver their venom, after which they wait until their prey has succumbed before feeding. While constricting snakes such as pythons and boas use their powerful muscles to crush the victim by winding themselves around it, cutting off blood flow and oxygen, taking down prey as big as sheep and buffalo. While most snakes focus on smaller prey, such as rats and mice, swallowing them whole while they're still alive. Snakes have no visible arms or legs, instead having between 200 to 400 vertebrae, each with prominent projections for powerful muscle attachment points, allowing them locomotion without limbs. Snakes make their way slithering along the ground, up along the treetops. Most move by lateral undulation, moving their bodies alternately left and right, resulting in distinctive wave-like movements. Though the movements appear rapid, this form of locomotion is fairly slow. Other snakes move by sidewinding, such as vipers, where the body moves in segments, lifting and pushing, resulting in a rolling motion at a much lower energy cost for the snake when push points are absent, due to lack of irregularities in the surface, such as sand dunes and mud. And there's not enough space for sidewinding. Snakes use concertina locomotion, where the snake braces its tail portion while extending its head and neck forward, at great cost of effort and very slow forward movement. Pythons and boas can also use rectilinear motion, slowly lifting and shifting its individual scales without significantly moving its ribs, resulting in ripple motions across the skin. This type of locomotion is notably subtle and used primarily for slowly stalking prey. Tree snakes use combinations of all types of movement, with some snakes of Southeast Asia having an additional form of locomotion, spreading their ribs out, launching themselves from branch tips, gliding through the air for hundreds of feet, even being able to turn midair. To accommodate their slimmed-down form, the internal organs of a snake are ordered front to back, as opposed to side to side, with most snakes only having one functional lung. The strongest of their senses is their sense of smell. Using a forked tongue, the snake collects airborne particles, bringing them into the mouth for examination. In what is called Jacobson's organ, permitting them to simultaneously taste and smell their surroundings, even giving them a sense of specific direction of the scent. Because of this, snakes keep their tongues in constant motion, constantly sampling everything around them to determine the presence of nearby predators or prey. The eyesight of snakes vary considerably, with some breeds having sharp binocular vision, and others barely able to distinguish light from dark. The common ground being their acute response to movements, sudden and slow. Snakes are also highly sensitive to air and ground vibrations, easily sensing any nearby animals. Some snakes, like pythons, pit vipers, and some boas, even have infrared sensitive receptors, enabling them to sense the heat signatures given off by warm-blooded animals in deep grooves on or around their snout. Thanks to their uniquely flexible two-part divided lower jaw, a snake can expand its mouth to swallow large prey whole. Contrary to popular belief, the snake's jaw doesn't dislocate, as much as the whole skull will bend and divide at numerous points, allowing the snake to swallow prey far larger than its own head, even large mammals. Occasionally, even humans. Contrary to common perception, the skin texture of a snake is commonly dry and smooth as opposed to slimy. With the entire length of the snake's body covered in scales of varying sizes and textures. Even with eyes covered by transparent scales to protect it, unlike movable eyelids in other animals. The appearance and quantity of scales is often used to distinguish different species, with the distinctive patterns of scales often directly corresponding to a snake's internal anatomy. All snakes shed their skin at different stages of life. The process is called molting, and involves complete shedding of the entire outer layer of skin, revealing a new, fresh layer of scales underneath, akin to turning a sock inside out. This helps cleaning the snake of parasites. Prior to molting, the snake seeks out a secluded spot. The outer skin turns dry and dull, with the eyes turning cloudy. As the inner surface of the old skin liquefies, separating from the newer skin underneath. At first, the skin cracks at the mouth and head, allowing the snake to wiggle out of the opening slowly. The old skin rolling off inside out. This process occurs between 1 to 4 times a year. Cold-blooded. Snakes are dependent on the surrounding air or water temperature to remain physically active. Once the temperature drops at night, the snake turns dormant. With snakes in colder climate entering a state of hibernation over the winter months. As a result, temperature greatly affects digestion. Following feeding, snakes also become dormant while the process of digestion takes place, especially after consuming a large prey. With many species only feeding sporadically, leading the entire length of the snake's intestine to enter a reduced state to conserve energy. In nearly all snake breeds, the male snake is in constant search of a mate. Once a female is found, mating can occur within any time of the year or the snake's life cycle. All snakes use some form of internal fertilization for procreation. This is achieved by a pair of forked hemipenes, normally inverted within the male's body. They are everted during copulation by use of erectile tissue. Mating is often brief and repeated. Alternating the hemipenis used. And with some snakes, preceded by ritual combat among the males, to determine which snake is granted rights to mate with an available female. Some breeds of snake appear polygynous, where a male mates with multiple females. whereas other species are strictly polyandrous, with the female courted by and mating with several males at once. Most snakes lay eggs, often abandoning them from that point on, covered in soft shells. The young can easily push themselves out of the eggs. Some snakes, like pythons and the king cobra, guard the eggs until hatching. Even attempt to warm the eggs by vibration to aid in incubation. Some snakes, however, keep the eggs inside their bodies until shortly before hatching. With others, such as the boa constrictor, giving live birth. After birth or hatching, young snakes are left to their own devices. Many falling prey to predators such as birds, cats, and other snakes. Though ordinarily not a threat to humans, venomous snakes can attack when threatened, often happening to farmers, hunters, and fishermen, who either step on a snake or approach too closely. With many snake breeds giving fair warning to any who dare threaten it, such as the rattlesnake's distinctive sound, the cobra's long cervical ribs that expand to form a hood, making it appear much larger than it is, or other snakes that commonly hiss at anyone approaching. When they strike, long hollow fangs or otherwise specialized teeth inject their victim with venomous saliva, making up a quarter of all known snakes. The venom of venomous snakes can vary wildly in effect, as they do not form a single group within the snake family, some being neurotoxins affecting the brain and nervous system, being either paralytic, as with the mambas or the king cobra, or cause tetany, which can lead to death, as with some rattlesnakes. Others are cytotoxins, affecting blood and cardiovascular systems and cellular structure, with the venom of the Japanese habu breaking down cell membranes, or as with most vipers, coagulating the victim's blood, or as with the venom of some cobras, effectively paralyzing the victim's heart muscles. With often the best and sometimes only treatment being specifically developed antivenoms. The bite of non-venomous snakes is usually harmless by contrast, with their teeth designed for grabbing and holding, as opposed to tearing and puncturing their prey, posing no threat to larger animals or humans. While larger constricting snakes, such as the African rock python and the reticulated python, have killed and reportedly eaten human prey on more than one occasion. Though this is exceptionally rare due to the snake preferring other, often larger animals for their prey, with the green anaconda notably never having been reported to kill a human, despite widespread fear of the animal. The words snake and serpent both come from the Proto-Indo-European term for to creep or crawl. In Judeo-Christian mythology, snakes have long been depicted as evil or duplicitous. with their slow, slithering movements and forked tongue appearing as emblematic of malice and deception. Described in the story of Genesis as the one evil in the Garden of Eden, tempting Adam and Eve with the forbidden fruit. Later on being a symbol for Satan himself. As a result, the word snake itself is now commonly used as an insult. While in Hindu culture, the snake is worshipped, belonging to a class of serpent deities known as Nagas, celebrated yearly in festivals across the country. In ancient Egypt, the king cobra was also worshipped as a deity, such as Wajet, protector and patron of the country and its pharaohs, or Renenutet, goddess of nourishment and harvest. As well as in Mesoamerican culture, where the snake was considered as important of a deity as the jaguar, being hailed as a portal between two worlds. Often linked to myths of a great flood as the originator. Similarly, Norse culture commonly depicted a cosmic snake, the world serpent, enveloping the world. And Ouroboros, swallowing his own tail to keep the world from ending, becoming a symbol for immortality and alchemy in the process. While in Greek mythology, the snake took on dual roles, with many stories featuring snakes as associated with deadly foes such as Medusa, as well as being a symbol for medicine, thanks to their periodic molting signifying renewal and healing, a symbol that survives today. Today, snakes are often kept as pets, particularly smaller constricting snakes, as they require minimal space and maintenance, with only infrequent feedings once every 1 to 2 weeks, and long lifespan, sometimes over 40 years given proper care, though often more dubious dealers have been known to sell endangered species, or snakes that grow too large to maintain, leading to many large constricting snakes being needlessly killed or set free in foreign environments. Many of the larger constricting snakes are today endangered due to severe deforestation and encroaching human settlements. Some cultures also frequently cook and consume snakes as a delicacy, with snake blood consumed in some Asian countries as an aphrodisiac. Bodies of snakes commonly steeped in alcohol to produce snake wine, a popular beverage in China considered to have curative properties, with only a handful of snakes potentially dangerous to humans, and most targeting rodents and pests. It seems their negative reputation today is unearned, attributed more to their strange limbless appearance, common misconceptions and superstition, rather than their nature. As one of the most successful and prolific predators across the globe. Earth, the planet we call our home. From deserts to snowy mountains, as surely as the seasons change, through the passage of time, every inch of our world is, as it has always been, teeming with life, with creatures large and small. Join us in celebrating the mighty wilderness in Wild About. On the plains of Africa, in the jungles of Southeast Asia, far away from civilization and all things familiar, deep in the heart of the wilderness, if you put your ear to the ground and you feel an oncoming tremor, hear a distant pounding of earth and mud, chances are something big is approaching. Something of a scale seldom seen in history. A fabled legend. A gentle giant. The biggest beast to walk the earth. True giants, growing to sizes up to 13 feet tall, weighing over 15,000 pounds. Elephants are the biggest creatures on land today, dwarfed only by their long-lost giant ancestors, their cousins, the woolly mammoths, and the dinosaurs that came before them, the last surviving members of the order of Proboscidea. Elephants first evolved from primitive predecessors 60 million years ago in late Paleocene, who, prior to diverging into their own group, lived in the oceans. As large aquatic mammals related to the manatees and dugongs of today, elephant emerging only around the mid-Pliocene period 3 to 4 million years ago. Elephants retained only small signs of their aquatic ancestors in the anatomy of their middle ear and the internal testes of the male. Today, they are divided into two different genus, the African elephant and the Asian elephant, with the Asian elephant, or Elephas elephants, being notably smaller. With smaller ears, a convex or flat back, smoother skin, with patches of depigmentation, and with dorsal bumps on its head, while the African elephant, or Loxodonta elephant, being larger, with bigger ears, concave back, sloping abdomen, rough skin, and a flatter head. The African elephant is also further divided into two species, the forest elephant and the bush elephant, the differences being subtle, with the forest elephant being smaller, closer to the size of an Asian elephant, having straighter, harder, pink-tinted tusks, additional toenails on each foot, and rounded ears. The bush elephant being the more famous, the classic image of the African icon. Elephants can be found in environments as diverse as dry savannas, deserts, marshes, grasslands, lake shores, snowy mountains, and equatorial forests. Asian elephants typically prefer dry thorn scrub forests, while African elephants tend to prefer either open areas or denser tropical forests. Strictly herbivores, all elephants feed on leaves, shoots, grass, bark, twigs, roots, and fruits, using their giant, highly articulated trunks to collect it and bring it to their mouths, consuming up to 300 pounds of food per day and 40 gallons of water. Feeding takes place mostly during the morning and afternoon, with elephants resting when the sun is at its brightest during midday, staying in the shade of large trees, or even dozing off while standing. While longer sleep is at night, for as little as 3 hours a day. Born with sterile intestines, they rely on intestinal bacteria to break down vegetation. Bacteria obtained by wallowing and eating their mother's feces while still young. As with other giant herbivores, elephants evolved to being their size to allow them to survive on vegetation with low nutritional value, relying on their trunk for most of their movement while their body remained stationary to compensate for their increase in weight and to give them additional height to easily reach the treetops and distant branches. Their legs grew longer and thicker, while their feet grew shorter and more massive, while their heads developed shorter mandibles in favor of the trunk. Highly flexible and made up exclusively of dense, powerful muscles, the trunk can be used for a multitude of tasks, including breathing, touching, grasping, digging, cleaning themselves and others, use as a snorkel when crossing large bodies of water, as well as giving the elephant a superior sense of smell, up to 4 times that of a bloodhound, and features 1 or 2 finger-like extensions at the tip of the trunk to allow for precision grabbing. As such, it is essential for an elephant's survival, with few surviving long with a damaged, paralyzed, or shortened one. As a result, the elephant's skull is among the most massive ones in the animal kingdom to be able to uphold the additional muscle weight, as well as added thickness of the skull and their massive tusks to allow not only for the digging for water and roots and debarking of trees, but also for head-to-head collisions in combat, partly for self-defense or in the defense of others, partly in ritual combat against other elephants, particularly among mature and dominant males who typically defend their role in the group with significant aggression. The skin of an elephant is also similar to the tough, thick skin of their aquatic relatives, though it is developed to withstand harsh, hot conditions as opposed to the corrosive salt water of the oceans. At its densest point, an elephant's skin may be up to 1 inch thick and is typically grayish in color, though African elephants commonly look darker and more brown due to their constant mud bathing to keep cool and provide protection from the harsh African sun, after which they use their trunks to blow dust onto its body, forming a protective crust when drying with the mud. To regulate temperature, the elephant's outer ear, or peni, is used, filled with numerous thin blood vessels or capillaries. The ear flaps are only covered in the thinnest parts of the elephant's skin, allowing for excess body heat to radiate out into the environment, an effect increased by the elephant's ability to flap their ears. The larger the ear flaps, the better suited the elephant is to a hot environment. When first born, elephant calves typically have concentrations of brown or reddish fur around their head and back, something which mostly disappears as they grow older, except for small bristles around the end of the tail, chin, genitals, and around the eyes and ears, to protect the vulnerable soft tissue from parasites, dust, and dirt. Due to the unusually straight posture and positioning of its legs, the elephant can be left standing for long periods of time without any sense of fatigue, with particularly the front legs capable of constantly sustaining 60% of the elephant's weight, as opposed to most quadrupeds. Because of their weight, elephants only have 2 modes of locomotion: walk and a slightly faster gait that could be called running. Due to the thick cushion pads of fatty tissue in the soles of the elephant's feet, the elephant's fast gait has a spring-like function that allows it to reach relatively high speeds of 11 miles per hour, while appearing to run only with their front legs, as well as generating comparatively little sound. Elephants are also highly capable swimmers, having been recorded to swim for up to 6 hours straight without touching ground or sea bottom. The brain of an elephant is considered small for its relative size, but remains nearly 4 times the size of a human brain. with the temporal lobes believed to process sensory input, so large that they bulge out at the sides. Similarly, an elephant's heart can weigh up to 45 pounds, yet beats only 30 times per minute. Elephants live in a fission-fusion-based society, often traveling in big herds for longer migrations, which are usually seasonal, splitting up into smaller groups or individuals when they've reached their target area. Most elephants travel around 12 miles per day, with some going as far as 10 times that, given their massive needs for vegetation. Highly matriarchal in structure, most groups are formed around an elder female and her female offspring, or cows, the eldest of which next in the line of succession. The family units are then part of a bigger clan of multiple families that group together during dry season migration. Among the families of the clans, 2 or 3 often commingle and form what are known as bond groups, with units in Asia being smaller than their African counterparts. The life of an adult male is very different by contrast, with mature males or bulls commonly staying in the fringes of the family group territory, as well as more frequently associating with outside males and other families, sometimes forced out entirely out of their family group, becoming solitary nomads or forming groups with other nomadic males, only associating with family groups when a fertile cow is present, usually detected by the release of pheromones, picked up by the male's powerful sense of smell. Adult males mature between 15 and 25 years of age, entering from there on a unique periodic state of elevated testosterone levels, up to 60 times the normal levels, leading to a sharp increase in virility, as well as aggressive behavior from the male, a state known as must, and is usually seasonal. It is characterized by a fluid secreted from the temporal gland running down the side of the elephant's face, urinating on itself, swinging its head high back and forth, picking at the ground, and numerous threat displays, even towards females. While the estrus cycles of cows is not seasonally linked, but instead occurring in regular 16-week intervals throughout the year. Mating, however, will typically occur during the peak of the wet season, when most bulls go through must, during which the first attracted bull will engage in mate guarding, where they follow the cow around and defend them from other bulls. Prior to mounting the cow, the bull lays his trunk over the cow's back as a signal, after which the mating begins. It is typically brief and is repeated often until conception occurs. Gestation in elephants is typically very long and only involves single births, or at most twins, with pregnancies known to last around 2 years, and interbirth intervals being up to 5 years. Commonly born during wet season, calves are born around 33 inches in height, weighing around 260 pounds, thanks to the long gestation. Newborn calves are born highly developed, quickly gaining the ability to stand and follow the family herd, though the mother initially remains highly protective of the calf, not letting even immediate family near the calf for the first few days, until the newborn gains additional strength through breastfeeding. Newborns then often become the center of attention within the group. Adults and other young gather around, touching and caressing the newborn with their trunks, encouraging the close-knit family bonds, while the males often don't engage with their calves at all. Occasionally, in some groups, alloparenting takes place, with other, often younger females engaging in breastfeeding and nurturing the calves, until 3 to 6 months of age, at which point weaning starts, though calves often periodically breastfeed until 2 years of age to maintain growth. Young calves are often very playful among themselves, with females running and chasing each other, and male calves often play fighting. Calves are often disciplined through trunk slaps, gentle kicks, and shoves, as well as encouraged by gentle touching of the trunks, feet, or tails, as the main form of communication between elephants is through touching. individuals of any age often greeting each other by stroking or wrapping their trunks, as well as touching each other's mouths, temporal glands, and genitals to gather chemical information related to the well-being of the other individual, with additional communication occurring through the loud calls produced by the larynx and occasionally modified through the trunk, with the well-known trumpet sound produced when excited or distressed. Infrasonic calls are important for long-distance communication. Calls in the 14 to 35 Hz range are audible to other elephants up to 6 miles away, with the elephant's hearing adapted to hear frequencies as low as 1 Hz. Another form of communication is through seismics, with elephants impacting the ground to produce rhythmic vibrations. The recipients leaning forward to put their weight on their front legs, known as freezing behavior, enabling the transmission of vibrations through the legs and shoulders onto the middle ear through cartilaginous nodes, similar to the acoustic fat found in toothed whales and manatees. Relatively high in intelligence, elephants have exhibited mirror self-recognition, something only seen otherwise in some apes and dolphins, and are indeed capable of using tools with their trunks, such as tree branches as fly swatters. Elephants have also been shown to have excellent memory, keeping track of expansive geography throughout years of constant migration. Elephants have comparatively long lives, often living up to 60 to 70 years, the oldest having been recorded to reach an age of 86. Because of their immense size, elephants have an enormous impact on their surrounding flora and fauna. By uprooting trees and undergrowth, elephants can transform savannas into grasslands in a matter of hours, with their freshly dug water holes becoming attractions for other animals. Thanks to their constant feeding and migration, elephants are also important seeders, with many seeds passing through their digestive system entirely, transported miles from the point of ingestion. Many smaller animals indeed also follow the elephant's migration, such as baboons and other monkeys, as well as dung beetles, feeding on the undigested food found in the elephant's feces. While adults are rendered invulnerable to predation due to their size compared to the largest predators around, calves that find themselves separated from the herd are typically targets for predation, such as lions, spotted hyenas, and wild dogs in Africa, and the tigers of Asia. Though the biggest threat to elephants has long since been human intervention, with African elephants being listed as a vulnerable species, and the Asian elephant severely endangered with 50% population decline over the last 60 years, due to the shrinking habitats and increasing deforestation. As well as extensive hunting. Their meat, hides, and above all their tusks being the target of hunters. The dentine tissue of the tusk being known as ivory, due to its pristine white color after treatment, often treated as an exotic material formerly used in piano keys, billiard balls, and other luxury items. The word elephant itself coming from the ancient Greek term for ivory, as 1/3 of an elephant's tusk is made out of pulp, with nerves stretching to the very tip. It is effectively impossible to remove an elephant's tusk without significantly injuring and traumatizing them, with the only ivory trade legal today being taken from already dead individuals. But illegal poaching has remained a major issue in the conservation of Indian and African elephants. With a large portion of the population of India formerly dependent on the ivory trade, and bandits often illegally trading ivory and elephant meat conducting concentrated raids and killings against large elephant populations, with more being killed for sport, often seen by wealthy hunters as the ultimate game. Since ancient times, elephants have also been thoroughly domesticated and trained by humans, often for the sake of entertainment, frequently seen in circuses and zoos until today, with many detractors criticizing the practice as inhumane and harmful for the animals. Training itself believed to cause significant physical and mental stress on the elephant, with many elephants in captivity having significantly shorter lifespans than their counterparts in the wild. Other elephants used as working animals, particularly in India, bred to haul heavy loads to remote areas, as well as used as vehicles for tourists. They are typically valued for their low maintenance and trainability, as well as the ability to work in difficult tropical environments where machinery and traditional mechanized vehicles would be unable to operate. Historically, elephants have also been used for armed combat, as formidable, often armored assault vehicles and instruments of war for generals and kings. Famously by Hannibal of Carthage, who crossed the Alps with 38 elephants in a vain attempt to conquer Rome, and Ptolemy of Egypt, who enforced his rule over his kingdom with a corps of imported Asian elephants. Death by elephant was even once used by ancient rulers across Southeast Asia as a favored method of execution, asserting dominance over animals and humans alike. Often wild male elephants have proved difficult to control or predict, however, with their periodically aggressive musk behavior, leading to many elephants fiercely attacking humans when provoked. Over 100 people are killed every year by enraged elephants in India alone, with an additional 400 worldwide. Some of the attacks are even believed to be vindictive actions against hunters and villagers known to hunt or mistreat other elephants. Though often seen as a symbol for calmness, patience, and exotic nobility, their exotic qualities are also proving to be their downfall, as they are becoming pushed into oblivion, a fate brought on by a new world with little room for nature and the mighty wilderness. The days of the mighty elephant may be numbered, but until then, they remain true giants of the wild. Earth, the planet we call our home. From deserts to snowy mountains, as surely as the seasons change, through the passage of time, every inch of our world is, as it has always been, teeming with life, with creatures large and small. Join us in celebrating the mighty wilderness in Wild About. Far from civilization, deep in the primordial jungles of the world, in the untamed tropical wilderness, in the dark muddy waters, something is lurking, right beneath the surface, patiently waiting, as old as time itself, has survived for millions of years. A creature of neither land nor sea. A primeval hunter. A prehistoric killer. One of the oldest still living orders of reptiles. Crocodilians have been the primary semi-aquatic predators of lakes, rivers, and swamps, anywhere warm for millions of years. Relatively slow-moving on land, they were born to swim the dark, muddy waters of the tropics, attacking anything that comes near the river's edge. Crocodilians appeared over 80 million years ago during the late Cretaceous period, as the last remaining distant reptile relative of the dinosaurs, having evolved from a common ancestor. Ancient crocodilians even having hunted mighty dinosaur predators, such as the massive Deinosuchus, which grew to be as large as 36 feet, feeding even on Tyrannosaurs, compared to the saltwater crocodile of today at a mere 23 feet. Crocodilians today range all tropical climates, even subtropical areas such as southeast United States and around the Yangtze River in China. Though all highly similar in appearance, they can be divided into three families: Crocodilidae, or true crocodiles, distinguished by their V-shaped snout and visible teeth even when the mouth is closed, existing across Sub-Saharan Africa, in India, Southeast Asia, Northern Australia, and Mesoamerica. Alligatoridae, including all alligators and caimans, which can be recognized by their U-shaped snout and less visible lower teeth, populating freshwater lakes, rivers, and swamps throughout the Americas and China. And Gavialidae, including the gharial and false gharial, with their distinctive narrow snout ending in a prominent bulge for the nostrils to stay above water, found in Southeast Asia and India. All are carnivorous, most hunting larger mammals, birds, fish, and even humans. They are consequently among the largest reptiles, with even the smallest breed, the dwarf caiman, being 3 feet long. They all have similarly solid builds reminiscent of lizards, significantly elongated flattened snouts, reduced limbs with webbed toes, and laterally compressed tails, all making them specially adapted for fast swimming and high maneuverability in the water, as well as a specialized rib cage, allowing the thorax to collapse during diving, and widened pelvis that allows for the internal organs to be pushed down to accommodate more air in the lungs. The eyes, ears, and nostrils of crocodilians are also located on the top of the head, allowing them to stalk prey with the rest of their body completely submerged. While swimming, crocodilians rely entirely on the side-to-side movement of the muscular, broad tail to propel them through the water, with all other limbs held close to the body to minimize drag. When stopping or turning, the crocodilian extends one or more of his limbs to adjust direction and speed, typically holding a low cruising speed to minimize exposure to their prey. All crocodilians have two modes of terrestrial locomotion: a low walk, which is very low in energy consumption and comparatively slow, where the arms and legs are slouched and held low as the crocodilian walks, and the more common high walk, which is closer to the gait of mammals than other reptiles, holding the legs underneath the body with the joints straighter, lifting the body higher off the ground, even allowing for short sprints and quick dashes. This is accomplished with swiveling ankle joints unique among reptiles. They can also use both their hind legs and their tail to be able to leap into the air. For all crocodilians, their primary sense is their sense of smell. Highly developed, they can smell prey from miles away. Crocodilians all have depth hearing, comparable to birds and most mammals, and are able to hear both in air and underwater. Though their eyesight varies considerably between species, all have protective nictitating membranes covering their eyes while submerging, which also contains glands excreting lubricants to keep eyes consistently clean in the muddy waters, often seen after the crocodilian emerges again as drying tears. The entirety of a crocodilian's body is covered in non-overlapping scales of varying shapes and sizes, known as scutes, covering an already thick, hardened skin, covered in a layer of keratin. Throughout their life cycle, new scutes are continuously produced, emerging underneath the old scales, eventually pushing individual scales out from time to time. Many of the scutes are reinforced by bony plates known as osteoderms, forming a protective armor along their back and neck. Each of the scutes contains blood vessels and can absorb or radiate heat to or from the body, as crocodilians are cold-blooded, depending on the surrounding air and water temperature for their internal temperatures, using the sun and water to regulate its body temperature, as well as keeping the mouth open to provide cooling by evaporation. Additionally, some scutes also feature a single pore, known as an integumentary sense organ, which is believed to aid the crocodilian sensing vibrations in water. Scutes along the tail and abdomen are often neatly ordered squares, whereas the scutes on the neck and flanks are commonly loose and softer, allowing for greater movement, in contrast to the scutes along the head, which are commonly fused directly to the skull. The head of a crocodilian, regardless of shape, is always characterized by the long jawline. The skull having powerful muscle attachment points capable of exerting massive pressure on any prey caught in its jaws. Some having the strongest bite forces in the animal kingdom, with the saltwater crocodile's bite measured to have a force of nearly 4,000 pounds, while the gharial and false gharial's thin jaws designed more for quick bites to capture fish, rather than the larger mammalian prey of most other crocodilians. The muscles used for opening the jaw are considerably weaker, with mouths easily held shut by any human or a decent rope. Crocodilian teeth vary considerably in shape and size, and are indicative of their preferred diet, from blunt and dull teeth of varying sizes set in wide snouts, as with the Chinese alligator and the broad-snouted caiman, specializing in eating hard-shelled mollusks, to sharp and needle-like teeth, such as that of the Australian freshwater crocodile, and the gharial, arranged in neat rows of uniform size in narrow snouts, intended to bite into smaller fish, and crocodilians falling in between having more general diets, such as the saltwater crocodile, Nile crocodile, or American alligator, feeding on invertebrates, amphibians, and fish, as well as other reptiles, birds, and larger mammals. All have approximately 80 teeth that are continuously replaced throughout their life cycle, up to 50 times per tooth, with new budding teeth growing next to existing ones, ready to emerge whenever required. Hunting strategies vary as well, though most commonly used is a stalk and ambush technique, where the crocodilian remains mostly submerged, inching closer to its unknowing prey, before suddenly striking, killing their prey, either by drowning or by whiplash by violently shaking it once in the crocodilian's grip. Most are known to be highly opportunistic, eating anything that comes near, living or dead, also using a variety of techniques to lure their prey, such as caimans, who herd fish into shallower waters, using their tail for easy capture. As with most other reptilians, crocodilians are unable to chew their food, instead relying on twisting and tearing motions to rip away flesh of their prey, which is then swallowed whole. Or with animals with thick hides too tough to handle, they will wait until the body becomes putrid and comes apart more easily. The meat is then taken to the two-part stomach, where the initial chamber, a muscular gizzard, grinds the food into a pulp, followed by the highly acidic digestive chamber, capable of breaking down even bits of bone and cartilage. As their digestive system is relatively slow compared to other mammalian predators, crocodilians can often survive much longer on little food, even surviving for months on a single large meal, digesting slowly and living on stored fat between meals, requiring as little as 10% of the amount of food required for a lion of the same weight, thanks to a specialized, highly complex circulatory system, including a heart with 4 chambers and double ventricles. Crocodilians can lower their own heart rate while submerged, using cog-like valves inside the heart to shut off blood flow to the lungs, which have been emptied prior to diving to reduce buoyancy. Their heart beating as slow as 1 or 2 beats per minute while underwater, allowing them to stay under for a common period of less than 15 minutes, up to 2 whole hours. Their maximum diving depth is unknown, but crocodilians have been documented to be able to dive at least 66 feet, As they ascend back to the surface, their heart rate begins to increase once they come up for breath. While in hotter climates, some crocodilians wallow in mud to keep cool. Most crocodilians reside in lowland freshwater bodies, but many can easily withstand brackish water or hypersaline lakes. Some even capable of venturing out into ocean water for short periods of time. With a saltwater crocodile prominently able to swim far out to sea and colonize new areas, though as with most crocodiles, it prefers freshwater rivers. Gharials are similarly found in rivers and lakes, spending most of their time submerged, while the American alligator prefers swamps and more turgid riverbeds, often found amidst the thick reeds and along the muddy banks. South American dwarf caimans prefer cooler, fast-flowing streams by contrast, with some species in Venezuela only spreading out over flooded savannas during the rainy season. Most crocodilians are strictly territorial and highly solitary, frequently defending basking spots, nesting sites, nurseries, and feeding areas. Only rarely social, as with the Nile crocodile, occasionally collaborating in a kill, or sharing basking sites. Though many crocodile species are silent, most communicate extensively, despite lacking anything like mammalian vocal cords, usually by grunts, roars, and bellows among adults, as well as head slapping, where the crocodilian elevates their head over the water, snaps their jaws shut, and splashes down into the water, which is used by more social species, as well as for courtship purposes. Generally polygynous, crocodilian males attempt to mate with as many females as possible, with dominant males patrolling large areas with several females contained within, with frequent courtship displays among many crocodilians, including the American alligator, often rubbing against each other, circling around, and swimming in complex displays. Mating then usually occurs in the water, the female arching her back, submerging her head and tail, while the male rubs across her neck, mounting her with his hind legs, aligning their tails. Mating lasts up to 15 minutes. The female crocodilian then constructs a simple nest, usually a hole in the ground or a small mound, made up of vegetation, sand, or soil, laying a clutch of anywhere between 10 to 50 eggs, protected by hard shells and incubated for 2 to 3 months before hatching. The temperature of the incubation commonly determines the sex of the hatchlings, with higher temperatures stimulating male hormone development. Communication occurs already within the eggs, as hatchlings near hatching tap their shells to communicate with the other eggs, helping them synchronize their hatching. Unusual for reptiles. Female crocodilians show extensive care of their young, with the mother waiting patiently by the mound until hatching, when the hatchlings start calling for her aid by yelping, at which point she excavates the hatchlings and takes them into her mouth, leading them into the water, after which the hatchlings stay close to their mother for a period of between a few months to 2 years. With caiman hatchlings often taken to shared nurseries or creches, where they are cared for by other females as well. Mortality rates are high among hatchlings, with the nests themselves in danger of floods, overheating, or predation, such as the American alligator's eggs, frequently targeted by the raccoon and black bears, or African crocodile eggs, targeted by baboons, otters, warthogs, mongooses, honey badgers, and spotted hyenas, with the monitor lizard being the largest threat to crocodilian nests across both Africa and Asia. Hatchlings themselves are often targets for predation as well, with many predators lurking near nesting areas, waiting for hatchlings to emerge, such as birds of prey. With some eggs also not developing properly, leading to malformed hatchlings with low chances of survival. Once in the water, hatchlings are also subjected to the threat of predation from fish, snakes, and turtles. Once subadult or adult, mortality rates drop sharply, as most crocodilians are the apex predator of their given environment with few natural predators. the only exceptions being big cats of South America such as the jaguar, targeting caimans, and elephants and hippos preemptively killing any crocodiles they see in self-defense. Cannibalism and fights to the death have been known to occur among crocodilians of the same species as well. Male rivals occasionally killing each other during mating season. Growth and subsequently sexual maturity is linked to accessibility of food rather than age, with most crocodilians reaching maturity once they grow past a certain size, as all crocodilians also continue to grow their entire lives, with lifespans ranging between 35 to 75 years. The name crocodile is derived from the Greek terms for pebble and worm, believed to be referring to the Nile crocodile's tendency to bask along the pebbled shores at the river's edge. Crocodilians have featured heavily in indigenous mythologies around the world. In ancient Egypt, worshipped as both Ammit, a soul-devouring demon, as well as Sobek, god of fertility and protection, relating the dual roles of ferocious hunter and nurturing mother of the Nile crocodile, with both Aztecs and Mayans associating crocodilians such as caimans with both fertility and death. Historical descriptions often attributed crocodilians with erroneous or fantastical properties, such as associating the nictitating fluids with tears shed for the crocodile's victims, and frequent exaggerations of their size, believed to have led to Western stories of dragons. Even the biblical story of Leviathan, a giant reptilian sea beast foreshadowing the end of the world. Today, though, crocodilians have been thoroughly well documented by herpetologists around the world. Many questions about their anatomy remain unanswered and shrouded in superstition and mystery, with Asian folk beliefs holding that alligator meat can prevent diseases and many internal organs can have medicinal properties. Out of 24 now living species, 9 have been known to attack humans, including the saltwater crocodile, Nile crocodile, American alligator, black caiman, the Morlitz crocodile, the mugger crocodile, the American crocodile, the freshwater crocodile, and the gharial, though many attacks have been in defense of their nests or territories. Crocodilians are highly opportunistic and have been known to attack humans as a source of food, with particularly the Nile crocodile believed to be responsible for over 300 deaths yearly, with 2/3 of the attacks being fatal, as the Nile crocodile, after grabbing hold of its prey, drags it down into the water, spinning to rapidly tear off large chunks of flesh from the victim. Likewise, 6 people are attacked yearly in the United States by alligators, with increasing human settlements in Florida Everglades putting people in close proximity to their natural habitats, while other crocodile breeds, such as the West African crocodile in Mauritania, appears indifferent even to humans swimming alongside it. As a result, crocodile hunting has long since been popular. Their tough, scaly skin often used for clothing, shoes, and handbags. Though the illegal trade of hunted crocodile skins and meat has gradually been supplanted, with that of legally farmed ones beginning in the 1970s. When eggs were taken from the wild, and alligators and crocodiles have been raised in specifically designed farms, where they are born and bred to reach their maximum size, before being killed for their skin, meat, and internal organs. Today, the biggest threat to crocodilians is the rapid decline of their natural habitats. Many marshlands and riverbeds being dried out and made into human settlements, with less and less of their natural tropical habitat viable to sustain them. Due to loss of habitat, as well as extensive fishing of their natural prey, gharials in particular have been reduced to a few hundred individuals remaining. Only intensive conservation efforts have been shown to be effective, such as that of the American alligator. Once highly endangered, now flourishing thanks to a concentrated effort to preserve their natural habitat and eliminating poaching. Though they may already have had their day in the sun, many of their kin long since extinct. There might still be a future ahead of the ancient kings of the river, as they continue to stock waters everywhere, as one of the last remaining predators on Earth. Earth, the planet we call our home. From deserts to snowy mountains, as surely as the seasons change, through the passage of time, every inch of our world is, as it has always been, teeming with life, with creatures large and small. Join us in celebrating the mighty wilderness in Wild About. Look closely, wherever you are, wherever you go. Look to any dark corner, any deep crevice, any small space, and you might find something lurking, whether waiting in the dark, stalking its prey, building its traps, or hiding in plain sight. A tiny predator, the lion among the invertebrates, the king among the critters, the reaper of all things tiny and small. Spiders are among the biggest group of invertebrates, with over 43,000 species and 100 families, with many more potentially undiscovered. They can be found worldwide. Members of the class of arachnids, they are distinct from insects, having no antennae or wings, proportionally large fangs, and 8 legs instead of 6. More closely related to scorpions, ticks, mites, harvestmen, and solifuge. Spiders first evolved around 300 million years ago from crab-like ancestors, originally marine animals before taking over the land. Using silk initially to protect their eggs, only later using it as traps, with the first orb weaver spider emerging during the Jurassic period, able to create the distinctive wheel-shaped webs we know today, now forever trapped in amber. Though most spiders today are highly similar to each other in form and function, often targeting the same prey and inhabiting the same environments, they can be divided into 2 suborders: the primitive Mesothelae, including the rare basal trapdoor spiders of Asia, and the more common Opisthothelae, which is further divided into 2 infraorders: Megalomorphae, which are distinguished by downward-facing fangs and long lifespans of up to 25 years, including the heavy-bodied, stout-legged spiders known as tarantulas, as well as funnel-web spiders, and Araneomorphae, including most other spider breeds, including orb weavers, cobweb spiders, crab spiders, jumping spiders, wolf spiders, and huntsman spiders, distinguished by their fangs sloping toward each other and their short lifespans of around 1 or 2 years. Most spiders are predatory, feeding on other insects and invertebrates, with some larger species such as tarantulas also attacking small mice and lizards. The most common and best known method spiders have of capturing their prey is through spider webs, made out of silk secreted from the silk glands, through the organ known as the spinneret at the rear of the spider. Initially a liquid protein, spider silk turns solid when drawn out, and forms a tensile strength similar to that of nylon, but is much more elastic, able to stretch significantly before breaking, which the spider then weaves into a complex web structure. With many spiders also using a particularly fine type of silk known as gossamer to form balloons or kites that they cling onto for locomotion, getting caught by the wind, allowing them to cross over isolated areas and even distant islands. Different types of webs exist, intended to capture different prey. From orb webs, flat circular webs that intercept and retain any prey that flies into it, and sheet webs, as flat sticky web patterns across a flat surface, to complex shaped webs, such as cobwebs, thick and three-dimensional, trapping their prey within a labyrinth construction, multiple threads ensnaring it from all directions. Or funnel webs, commonly placed in burrows and tree hollows, trapping prey passing by, with the spider waiting at the small end of the funnel. With tubular webs being highly similar, with a sticky surface running up in a tube shape around the base of a tree or along the ground. Additionally, there are the diving bell webs of water spiders, filled with air for the spider to breathe in the water. Or trapdoor webs, where the spider constructs a burrow or tube silk with a cork-like trapdoor. Others, such as net casting spiders, lunge at their prey, enveloping them in a pre-made web. While the bolus spiders swing a single thread with a large sticky ball of silk at the end to strike and capture moths. Wolf spiders, jumping spiders, fishing spiders, and certain crab spiders chase after their prey, relying on eyesight. Some target ants specifically, or ant food, such as aphids, and have developed means of mimicking ants to get closer to them. By holding their forward legs up, mimicking ant antennae, and developing light spots around their eyes to appear similar to ant-like compound eyes. Spider eyes are simple, though commonly multiple, and arranged in different patterns that vary from family to family, most having much poorer eyesight than humans. Instead relying on bristles known as setae, sensitive to air currents and chemical senses equivalent to taste and smell, as well as organs known as slits and cilia, sensitive to vibrations in the joints of their limbs. As the spider's body is covered in a cuticle, or hard protective outer layer, made of chitin and proteins, forming an exoskeleton for muscular support, divided into segments with flexible joints. Even the heads themselves made up of several segments that fuse during embryonic development, as the hardened cuticle of a hatch spider cannot grow. Spiders regularly molt instead, shedding its old cuticle, with the spider often becoming reclusive and fasting before molting. The spider's body is divided into two segments, or tugmata. The forward one, also known as the cephalothorax or prosoma, fusion of what in insects is separated as head and thorax, covered in a hard convex carapace on top, and two flat plates on the bottom, covering the brain and stomach. In the posterior one, the abdomen, or opistostoma, commonly egg-shaped and soft, covering the intestine, heart, lung, ovaries, and silk glands. The two tugmatas are connected by the pedicel, a small cylindrical part of softer connecting tissue containing the aorta. Spiders breathe using either book lungs, a tracheal system, or a combination of both. A book lung being an organ with several layers and folds of air pockets and tissue filled with hemolymph, the invertebrate equivalent to blood, which is then exposed to its environment through a small opening. Allowing air to enter and diffuse oxygen. While tracheal systems in spiders is a network of tiny tubes and holes running all across a spider's body. They transport metabolic gases to and from a spider's hemolymph, or directly to the tissue and organs, including oxygen gathered from a pair of openings known as spiracles, commonly fused together as one near the spinneret. The spider's head is often near indistinguishable from its thorax, with the brain taking up both parts, and featuring larger appendages known as pedipalps, and smaller ones immediately before the mouth, known as chelicerae, used in place of jaws, coming together like a folding knife when they bite. Often thick hairs are present across the upper base parts of the chelicerae, filtering out solid lumps, as their narrow gut only allows for liquid foods. Spiders have two means of feeding, either secreting digestive enzymes into their prey, liquefying their insides, or grinding their prey to a pulp using the chelicerae in a preoral space akin to a mouth cavity. All spiders, except for the cribellate orb weavers, also secrete venom from venom glands out into the typically large foldable fangs at the ends of the chelicerae, enabling them to quickly incapacitate or kill their prey before feeding. Some spiders' venom also contain chemicals venomous only to larger mammals as a defense mechanism, such as rats, cats, and monkeys. While the cribellate orb weavers kill their prey by crushing them with silk, rapidly weaving it around their prey before they have a chance to escape. Each leg of a spider consists of 7 parts, 3 joints connecting 4 segments, ending in a claw, always keeping at least 4 legs on the surface while walking or running. While most animals use muscles to flex their limbs, spiders use hydraulic pressure to extend them, with only muscles existing in the so-called hip joints joining the closest segment, the coxa, to the trochanter. A system inherited from pre-anthropod ancestors, leading to dead spiders curling up their legs, due to a sudden lack of hydraulic pressure to keep them extended. Sudden increase in blood pressure in the hind legs can thus allow jumping spiders to leap up to 50 times their own length. Most active hunting spiders also have dense tufts of fine hairs between their claws, known as scopula, allowing them to walk up smooth vertical surfaces. And even walk upside down, with some spiders also relying on the surface tension of water to be able to run across it, easily eluding many predators unable to follow. Many spiders are also effectively camouflaged against predators, with their coloration matching their most common environment, and some having disruptive coloration patterns such as blotches and stripes to break up their outlines, while others such as New World tarantulas and baboon spiders having urticating hairs on their abdomens, small bristles with a row of barbs on the tip that can be thrown by the spider when threatened, causing significant irritation to any portion of the attacker's skin exposed to the bristles. A few spiders rely on numbers for defense and form colonies that also share webs, cooperate to catch food, and protect each other's eggs, with some tangleweb spiders forming groups as large as 50,000 individuals. Spiders reproduce internally, but indirectly, in that the female is not fertilized directly by the male, but through an intermediate stage, with male spiders spitting small sperm webs into which they ejaculate, after which they transfer the sperm to a syringe-like structure on the tips of their pedipalps, used to inseminate the female through her genital opening. Mating is typically preceded by elaborate courtship rituals. To prevent the larger females from eating the smaller males before fertilization. Rituals that in web-weaving species often consist of precise patterns of vibrations in the web that serve to signal to the female that the male seeks to mate, effectively hypnotizing her. For actively hunting spiders, the male instead touches the female's body in highly specific places for the same result. While jumping spiders, known for their comparatively superior eyesight, use gestures and dances to court the female. After mating, many female spiders coming out of their state of hypnosis turn to eat the male, who often willingly sacrifices himself, providing the nourishment needed to produce the many eggs later laid by the female. Spiders can lay up to 3,000 eggs at a time in one or more silk sacs, which some species then hide in nests, carry around until hatching, or attach to their webs. Baby spiders pass all their larval stages inside the egg and emerge as spiderlings. Resembling miniaturized versions of their parents. Often left to their own devices. They're able to hunt for themselves. Despite their size, spiders have long been one of the most feared animals on the planet. With arachnophobia, or the abnormal fear of spiders and anything reminiscent thereof, being one of the most common specific phobias, particularly in Western societies. With over 50% of all women and 10% of all men exhibiting symptoms. and up to 6% of the population worldwide having severe cases, causing severe unease and panic at the mere sight of even a harmless spider. While culturally spiders have long been a symbol for patience, stemming from their hunting technique of setting a web and waiting for their prey, as well as world-building and creation myths in both Africa tribal cultures, as well as Native American traditions, such as the Hopi and Navajo belief in the spider grandmother, thinking the world into existence through the weaving of her webs, with the ancient Egyptians worshipping the spider goddess Neith as a weaver of destiny. The word arachnid itself coming from the name in Greek mythology, arachne, meaning spider. Spiders have been created as the resurrected soul of Arachne, princess renowned for her weaving, while in later traditions spiders have commonly been associated with evil and mischief, often significantly depicted in horror films and literature, with giant man-eating spiders as a popular subject of fantasy and sci-fi horror, playing with the common audience response of unease and disgust at the sight of them. As well as significant reputation for being venomous. Though widely feared, most spider venom is harmless to humans. Its effects rarely worse than that of a mosquito bite. Most spiders also only bite humans in self-defense as a last resort, with fewer than 100 reported deaths worldwide during the last century. Only the funnel web spider and Brazilian wandering spider are known to be both highly venomous as well as aggressive. Spider venoms are typically classified into two categories: necrotic venom, breaking down the soft tissue around the bite, causing cellular destruction and infections that could lead to death, a rare venom found in recluse spiders and six-eyed sand spiders, and the more common neurotoxins affecting the nervous system, causing cramps, respiratory arrest, and cardiac palpitations, or even cardiac arrest, which is the venom of widow spiders, wandering spiders, and mouse spiders, with the black widow spider being the most notoriously venomous, the female having unusually large venom glands in proportion to its small size, and with 36 reported deaths in a 30-year period. Though contrary to common perception, these cases are the exceptions to the norm, with many bitten every year suffering few ill effects, with effective antivenoms existing for all widow spiders as well as most other severely venomous spiders. Though often seen as a pest, spiders actually help eliminate common infestations of insects, such as flies, mosquitoes, and cockroaches, as they are the primary predator of insects in most households. Despite their popular image, some primarily larger spider breeds such as tarantulas have also become known as occasional exotic pets. Easily managed, tarantulas can live over 20 years confined in a simple terrarium, with smaller spider breeds easily kept in simple jars with sand or soil and leafy or rocky coverage for up to 2 years. Spiders have also been found to possibly be beneficial to humans, with spider venoms a more natural alternative to pesticides, as most venoms do not affect vertebrates, but are deadly to insects. Additional medical uses for spider venom are also being investigated, including usage as a treatment for cardiac arrhythmia, Alzheimer's disease, and strokes. And due to the high tensile strength of spider silk, attempts are being made to synthesize it to produce clothing. In parts of South America, spiders are also popular as a delicacy, with tarantulas commonly cooked and consumed, after the highly irritant, urticating hairs are removed. In most societies, however, the public view of spiders remain negative, with pest control and pesticides often targeting spiders specifically, though often with mixed results, given the unfailing endurance and prevalence of spiders everywhere. So commonly feared, hated, and misunderstood, spiders nevertheless persist in every part of the world in great numbers, and show no signs of stopping, remaining among the world's most prolific predators.